So, you're living in or thinking of moving to Thailand, but how far will that income from your home country go in the coming years? In this video, we'll look at the baht's recent history, factors that might have affected it, and two very different forecasts for the next 5 years. The forecasts that I found really couldn't be more different to each other, and I certainly know which one I want to come true. As I film this today, there are 40.7 baht to the pound, 31.5 to the US dollar, 35.2 to the euro, 20.9 to the Aussie dollar, and 23.5 to the Canadian dollar. But when I first went to Thailand in 2001, the exchange rate for £1 was in the high 60s. And a year later, the mid-70s. Although when my father-in-law first went, almost 20 years earlier, there was less than 35 baht to the pound, and it actually dipped beneath 30 for a while. Exchange rates often move in cycles, so to me the baht has rocketed, but to him it's weaker than when he first encountered it. Before we get going, if you do find this video useful or interesting, hit the like button, why not subscribe? So if you've seen the title and you just want to see the two forecasts I'm going to share, skip through until you see the word stop in the top right hand corner. So have things really become as bad as we think they have? Haven't things just returned to a more realistic value after the pain of the 1997 Southeast Asian economic crisis? After all, us Brits were getting around 40 baht to the pound through the early to mid 1990s. Then, when the crisis hit in 97, we benefited. In a very short amount of time, it jumped from 40 to over 90 baht to the pound at its peak. Americans saw the baht jump from the mid-20s to over 50 to the US dollar. Of course, some Thais living in the West benefited too. I heard stories of Thais in the UK taking out bank loans simply to send money home and take advantage of these crazy high rates. Whilst they didn't stay at these highs for long, they certainly never returned to the pre-crisis rates. But maybe they're heading back there now. Crises on the scale seen then, as we experienced ourselves with the financial crisis of 2008, can take a decade or more to recover from. And in Thailand, the landscape still bears the scars in the form of abandoned buildings that were started and left during that period of their history. In relative terms, for Americans, this isn't really the drop us Brits and others moan about, because as far back as 2007, they've been dealing with 30 baht to the US dollar, and it's mostly bounced around 29 to 35 ever since. There's other currencies where the trend and percentages involved are more pronounced. Maybe the dollar being the world's trading currency of choice has helped, whereas others have seen sharper weakness. But let's think about some possible reasons. Firstly, in the political realm, Thailand has seen some years of relative stability again. The military don't need to stage a coup if their man is already PM after all. Tourism has risen fourfold since the mid-2000s. It's even doubled between 2015 and now. So 4 times the people, thinking simplistically, means 4 times the holiday money going into Thailand. More demand for the baht. There is also less outflow from Thailand compared to many other countries. Their policies tend to look inwards. Even with tourism, Thais didn't traditionally holiday overseas much, but rather domestically. And with what they have on their own doorstep, why not? There are also more foreigners living and retiring there. I couldn't find any numbers on this, but if we assume it's in line with general tourism, that's 4 times the monthly inflow of income and pensions as people keep up with visa requirements. More inflows came from the housing and condo boom. The increase in mid and higher end condos aimed at attracting foreign investment, particularly the Chinese in recent years, has seen more baht purchased. There is also the investment coming from the Chinese in helping with large-scale projects. Although a benefit to Thailand here is that a stronger baht also helps with these large-scale infrastructure programs, because there's more of the global transaction currency, the dollar, to the baht. If the baht were weaker, say 40 or 50 to the US dollar, the cost to Thailand would be much more. Lastly, let's not forget rice. For a long time, Thais were the world's largest exporter of rice until surpassed by India in 2015, but they still export $5 to $6 billion per year. Recently, the baht could have been a victim of its own success. Continuing to strengthen makes foreign investment more costly, and then this strength even attracted more money from around the globe when the financial world started to view the baht as a safe haven currency alongside the Japanese yen. The Bank of Thailand used its central powers and lowered interest rates, in theory making Thailand less attractive to the outside world. Then they got into trouble for currency intervention, in trying to keep the baht above 30 to the US dollar, when it purchased more USD, increasing its foreign reserves. While this prevented a drop to an estimated 25 to 28 to the USD, it also caught the attention of the international community. Thankfully, Thailand managed to avoid being put on the watch list for currency manipulators when the US Treasury Department issued its foreign exchange report in 2019, saved only by having a trade surplus with the US of $19.3 billion, just under the $20 billion threshold. So which way will the baht go? Most forecasts see it continuing to gain strength over at least the next year, although most of these would have been created before the outbreak of the coronavirus. What the medium and long-term impact of the coronavirus will be, we'll have to wait and see. But leaving that issue out of things for now, I've seen two very different forecasts recently that I'm going to share. Why not leave a comment below? Let me know what you think of the forecasts and which way you think it's going to go. So let's look at what is probably the most realistic one. So this first forecast thinks that in January 2021 we'll be seeing 39.02 baht to the pound, 30.62 baht to the US dollar, 33.10 to the euro, 18.47 to the Aussie dollar, 22.33 to the Canadian dollar. It then sees all the currencies dropping further. So by January 2022 we're looking at 37.10 to the pound, 29.51 to the US dollar, 30.97 to the euro, 16.25 to the Aussie dollar, 21.07 to the Canadian dollar. And things keep getting worse. In January 2023, it sees 35.17 baht to the pound, 28.4 baht to the US dollar, 28.81 baht to the euro, 14.05 baht to the Aussie dollar, 19.79 baht to the Canadian dollar. And then the forecast gets even grimmer. So by January 2024, we're looking at 33.28 baht to the pound, 27.29 to the US dollar, 26.68 to the euro, 11.85 to the Aussie dollar, 18.51 to the Canadian dollar. Even worse still is January 2025, 31.38 baht to the pound, 26.18 to the US dollar, 24.54 to the euro, 9.65 to the Aussie dollar, 17.24 to the Canadian dollar. So looking at the fifth year of the forecast versus now, it makes the current rates look fantastic, because this is expecting a 23% drop for the pound, a 17% drop for the US dollar, 30% drop for the euro, a 54% drop for the Aussie dollar, and 27% drop for the Canadian dollar. So painting a very different picture is the second forecast. This one also sees things getting worse initially. So for January 2021, it's forecasting 37.10 baht to the pound, 30.2 to the US dollar, 32.55 to the euro, 18.04 to the Aussie dollar, 21.73 to the Canadian dollar. But then things really turn around. So by January 2022, we're looking at 61.46 to the pound, 51.67 to the US dollar, 53.06 to the euro, 32 to the Aussie dollar, 35.92 to the Canadian dollar. And things start getting even better. January 2023, 94.91 to the pound, 80.42 to the US dollar, 81.09 to the euro, 51.48 to the Aussie dollar, 55.56 to the Canadian dollar. Even better still, by January 2024, we should see 140.09 to the pound, 119.58 to the US dollar, 119.71 to the euro, 78.04 to the Aussie dollar, 82.02 to the Canadian dollar. And if we think things can get any better, by January 2025, this is expecting 171.95 baht to the pound, 149.44 baht to the US dollar, 146.79 baht to the euro, 96.89 baht to the Aussie dollar, and 100.74 to the Canadian dollar. So again, comparing today's rates against the fifth year of this forecast, we should all see our currency strengthen dramatically. 322% for the pound, 374% for the US dollar, 317% for the euro, 363% for the Aussie dollar, 328% for the Canadian dollar. I guess the question now about this second forecast is, are they expecting higher levels of inflation in Thailand? Therefore, whilst we'll get more baht for our buck, it won't actually go any further. They're not by the same people, but the couple of forecasts of inflation I did manage to find both expect inflation in Thailand to stay below 2% for the next few years. So if the second forecast is correct, in 2025 you can expect that 80 baht bottle of beer to cost you about 45p. One question I will open to everyone is that the second forecast sees big jumps in rates on the 5th and the 6th of March each year. For example, in the first year it jumps from 37 to 66, in the second year 61 to 100, then 94 to 146, and finally 139 to 179. Does anyone have any idea what's supposed to happen in Thailand every March for the next 5 years? Leave a comment below. So I'll leave it on a high point now, whilst we're all wondering what we're going to do with all our spending power in the years to come. But I hope you've enjoyed this video.